Welcome back everybody, and in this lesson 6, we will have modern China. In the first lesson, we have the ancient China. Now in this second lesson, we will have modern China, tales of struggles. Each nation has surpassed a dark period at some point in its history. This socio-political turmoil shapes the country's political will and strengthens the nationalism of its people. Now, just like here in the Philippines, right? Before we get to have our freedom, we have been in that dark period wherein we battle for our freedom. We were colonized a lot of times. And even in the modern times, our country also suffered issues when it comes to freedom. And because of that, the Filipino people strives to fight for its nation. And China is no exception for that. They also have that what we call the dark ages or the dark time. China, with its ancient history of old civilization, has overcome several dark periods in its history that proved to be vital in reforming its political landscape. China had been ruled by so many dynasties for thousands of years, but towards the 1900s, the rule of the dynasties gets weaker and weaker until it finally came to a close in 1911. The uprising in 1911 led to the overthrow of the imperial rule. However, the republic that replaced the imperial rule did not last. This even led to more factions of warlords and civil war between the communist and Kuomintang movement until finally in 1949, Mao Zedong and his Communist Party emerged victorious. Now, Mao Zedong is like the Hitler of China. Not only did China endure devastating failures in government reforms under Mao Zedong's leadership, but many people also suffered tragic deaths and violence because of the chairman's ambitious political will. He created the Cultural Revolution, which is known as the darkest moment in China's history. During the years of the Cultural Revolution, many civilians and academicians were killed, publicly humiliated, and forced out of their homes because they were identified as traitors to the Communist Party. This dark period in China's history ended up becoming a central subject in many fictions and other writings created during the modern China. More than the depiction of how difficult the times were, the battling ideologies about social classes, communism, and equality became a prevailing theme in many modern Chinese fiction. Now, during these times, a lot of literature were created, and it is all based on the struggles that the Chinese people are struggling with. The struggles that the Chinese people are struggling with. Yeah, you know what I mean. It can also be connected here in the Philippines during the time of martial law. There are a lot of writers who made stories that are based on what was happening during those times. So, just like in China, here in this lesson, we will be discussing a story that happened during that time. And even during that dark time, the story that we will be having in this lesson will shed a little bit of light. It's just like seeing the silver lining. Just like what our former Miss Universe said, during the difficult times, we always have to see that silver lining. So, in this lesson, we will be tackling a little incident. A little incident was written by Zhao Shuren, known by his pen name Lu Xun, and he is a renowned writer and fictionist in the early 20th century of China. He was educated in Japan but eventually returned to China to teach science. Later on, he served in the Ministry of Education, With the array of novels and stories that he wrote, his short story, A Madman's Diary, is the most well-known. His writings are characterized as powerful commentaries against social abuse and exploitation among the social classes. So for you to know, what is that little silver lining that I'm talking about earlier? Read The Little Incident by Zhao Shu Ren and answer the following questions. Why did the narrator feel ashamed of himself? And if you were the rickshaw puller or the rickshaw driver, would you have done the same? And why? Now you might be wondering, why am I not discussing these literatures to you just like what I did in the first quarter? Now, the first quarter is a little bit of warm-up for you to get acquainted with the different literatures that we're going to have in this entire year in English. Now, it's time for you to read it on your own. And now, if you cannot really understand or you have some questions with regards to the literature, don't hesitate to message me in the following time schedule. Now, this has been Teacher Del.